Sometimes there's no big fanfare. Sometimes your efforts just go unnoticed and you become lost to history. There's not going to be a pat on your back or a kiss on your cheek, and you realize it's too late in your journey to stop now. So there's nothing else you can do but see it through. Or just turn off the game. It goes without saying for this video, but spoiler warning. And if I told you which games I'm spoiling given the topic of this video, that's kind of a spoiler in itself. So here's your warning. Life is Strange is one game where the endings are guaranteed to be sorrowful, bittersweet at the very least. Following Max Caulfield and her temporal powers in the fictional seaside town of Arcadia Bay, she is given the premonition of the town being wiped out by a huge storm. To prevent it, she must jump back to the time before she first used her powers. The problem is, however, the first time she did so was to save the life of Chloe Price, her best friend. Of course, the player has the choice of sacrificing the town to let Chloe live, but the decision isn't going to be easy for most. Something is always going to be lost. If you haven't played the original Mafia, the Definitive Edition allows one to experience the game's story and ending, but with high-def graphics. To keep him and his family safe, Tommy Angelo, who the player plays, testifies against the Dawn of the Salieri crime family, receiving a reduced prison sentence and becoming placed under witness protection. But his actions catch up to him as he, after living a long life with his family in hiding, is shot and killed by two familiar members of the Mafia on behalf of Salieri. A sad ending for sure, as it shows how you can never really escape the consequences of your actions. But the Definitive Edition actually changes how Angelo approaches his fate. In the original game, he seems unsure and a bit worried as to why he's being approached by two men he doesn't know. But in the Definitive Edition, he knows exactly what's going to happen and accepts it accordingly. A nice and unexpected change that shows how honorable Angelo really is. Spec Ops: The Line has different endings, but none of them ever make you feel like you won. I mean, it's war. The game follows Captain Walker and his squad in Dubai, where their recon mission changes to a search and find for John Conrad, who currently orders his infantry to take over the city. Conrad, despite being Walker's hero, must be stopped. But when the player finally reaches Conrad, having seen and done many terrors like slaughtering civilians by accident, Walker wants nothing but justice. But Conrad, he's been dead. Walker imagined Conrad so he could blame someone for every atrocity done in Dubai. The player has two options: let the figment of Conrad shoot Walker, which is the same as Walker shooting himself, or shoot the figment of Conrad and call in an evacuation. An army convoy arrives to find Walker wearing Conrad's uniform with a gun, shell-shocked. There, the player has two more options: shoot at the convoy that arrived to pick him up, resulting in either his death or the entire convoy's, or he can surrender and return home. If you think any of these, or even any one of these, is a good or happy ending, you'd be dead wrong. I remember when my friend and I first played Far Cry 5. In fact, it was the first Far Cry we've ever played. And man, was the ending ever a sucker punch. We're still not sure how to feel about it. The game's main ending includes choosing not to fight against Joseph and walking away. You can also get this ending early at the start of the game if you don't try arresting Joseph to begin with, but that means the cult remains to thrive. Defeating him, however, isn't any better either. The supposed doomsday Joseph's fanatics refer to isn't just nonsensical rambling. Nuclear bombs explode in the distance as you drive with your allies, with Joseph in custody, resulting in a car crash where everyone but you and Joseph die. And the last thing the player sees is Joseph, as the world begins a perpetual nuclear war. Halo Reach has an ending that is sad, but has a glimmer of hope. Reach is the prequel to the events of the mainline Halo games, following Noble Six and Noble Team, a group of skilled Spartans seeking to aid the war effort against the Covenant. As the campaign progresses, all but 6 die, unless you count player deaths.
Wait,
You gotta go!
wait, what's this grenade then? Oh. But 90% accuracy is no more.
As he remains on Reach to fight the Covenant to allow the Pillar of Autumn to escape, kickstarting the events of the first Halo. Six gets overwhelmed and heroically dies to the Covenant, but never stopped fighting. This ending is a clear example of losing the battle but not the war, but that doesn't make it any less depressing. Call of Duty Ghosts has the player take control as a member of a certain team, called Ghosts. The team is a direct counter to a group hell-bent on taking down the United States, called the Federation. One of the members of this group is an ex-Ghost operative named Rourke, and the game doesn't pull any punches when it comes to convincing the player that he is your true enemy. Not to mention, Rourke also kills one of the previous members of Ghosts, which happens to be your dad. So, how does the player exact revenge in the climax of the game? They don't. While the plans of the Federation do get foiled, Rourke survives your attempts to kill him. And to make matters worse, the game ends with him dragging you away to brainwash you into a Federation member. Hey, at least you're not dead. Portal also has a similar ending when you're so close to getting what you want, only to be literally dragged away from it. As Chell, a test subject to the darkly humorous GLaDOS, it's very clear GLaDOS will just kill you after the experiment is finished. After perilous puzzles and just as deadly brain-racking, you manage to create a huge hole in the Aperture Science Facility ceiling and end up in the parking lot unconscious. In the original release of the game, this is how the story ends. But when Portal 2 came around, where Chell is most definitely still GLaDOS' unwilling test subject, the game's first ending was changed slightly to have Chell's body being dragged back towards the facility. All in the name of continuity and clarification, I guess. Perhaps one of the more tragic endings, probably the most tragic in this list, is Red Dead Redemption's. For context, John Marston was tracked down by the government and is now being forced by said government to track down his former allies to bring them to justice. In doing so, Marston can see his family again, and the government eventually does live up to their promise. They just didn't promise Marston he would be kept alive for long afterwards. Ross, one of the Bureau of Investigation agents who captured Marston to begin with, mercilessly guns him down with a small army as the outlaw's family runs away on horseback. Decades later, in a sad turn of events, Marston's son, Jack, becomes a legendary outlaw with no goal but to avenge his father. After burying his mother, Jack tracks down an old and dying Ross, defeating him in a duel. Jack got his revenge, but at what cost? Sad endings are a bit tricky, especially if the player feels the game hasn't earned the right to give them such, but sometimes it's important to remember that it's the journey, not the destination.
Check out the original article in the description.
For more articles about sad endings or guides, news, and reviews, check out thegamer.com. Thanks for watching.